on the part of attack on the security. Number two, the issue of this inheriting the widow. We've been told a lot of stories here, but I really want to know, because we are Africans, matters of widows are very critical. Have you thought of looking for the family of the late Gachagua, just to clarify so many questions that are legally around that particular family? I thank you.
Senator, in the first round, allow others also to
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My clarification is to the DP's team. On a video that was played yesterday at a relocation point in Nairobi County, I want a clarification from the DP's team on whether their client is aware that county governments are distinct governments, and if so, Honorable Speaker, did the DP consult with the county government of Nairobi over the challenges of relocation at Kayole? And two, Honorable Speaker, there was a video that was played, either one or two, involving a speech at either run by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya. My question is, what was the essence of that video? And is it to show that two wrongs would make one right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My clarification is to witness of the National Assembly. Yesterday, during the course of examination, the advocate of the Deputy President, you asserted that you have identified several companies which you have no issues and to which you do not attribute any misconduct in their dealings. Given this context, could you inform the necessity for including these companies in the present impeachment motion?
So, Mr. Speaker, thank you. I have one question for the witness in chief, and one clarity question for the council and the deputy president, particularly council Tom. So I'll start with the help this house understand whether all the companies that you indicated for the sons and the spouse of the deputy president, and whether you established how old they are and estimated the net worth of those companies. Did you manage to estimate the net worth of those companies? How did you do that? To the senior council, the council Tom Masharia, in the explanation of ground number 4, you led this house to look at the particulars of the coalition document. The coalition document which was admitted. Maybe help us understand how we should interpret Article 91 of the Constitution and Article 232 of the Constitution with regards to a response on government making a company equal to our shares and not the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable. a letter to the Public Service Commission to the clerk of the National Assembly by volume 8A, gives a different person by the name Makar Juliana Jahena. When we have different names here, you need to clarify because they have a different person altogether. Two different people altogether. Second clarification is on the issue of the award of the tender on the proposed establishment of the DP's residence in Karen. Honorable Joseph, the government, through the State House of Scholar, signed that contract. Wanted to know what is the relationship of this contract with the DP. Now that you say it has an issue, what's all about the contract and the company that did that contract? We need to know what is the relationship and what is the malpractice that
Mr. Speaker, sorry, my question was for Dr. Willow.
Senator,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've got two questions. One to the council for the president, the other one to both for clarification by the council for the president. Yesterday, in the course of your cross-examination, you took us to page 410 of volume 3. This is with regards to the accusation where the president charged or accused the national intelligence of what he said. Now, my clarification for you that I desire is at that page 410, the evidence is sought to support what the president did and what the president was accused of having done with regards to one being in office and another one alleging that he's not being able to attend sessions where that COVID came from. Give us the correlation of the two. And secondly, I share the sentiments by all the senators who sought to get from you an understanding about the correlation of arguments. You were able to explain yesterday the relationship between company shares and coalition agreement shares. You were able to take of this in terms of the regimes of the two current agreements. What do you say as regards shares in a company registered under the Companies Act vis-a-vis post-election coalition agreements registered under the Companies Act and the governance of
Senator, for two debating.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask Honorable Joseph, is there a minimum age of a client in a bank to get a loan secretary?
Senator,
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, my question, I'm awaiting Dr. Anna Mujwa.
Senator, curious.
Two quick questions to you, Musa. Is there any time that again I will have
are committed, if they have 20, 30, or even 40 companies, because I think we have listed 22 companies here, is there any crime by just owning these companies you feel that the person you accuse has committed? Second, on this issue of the people age, surely, Honorable Producer, what is the crime of the sons of the Deputy President being listed as director? Because I have tried coming to emotion to establish what you consider to be either an illegality or a crime on their part by simply being listed as directors. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, is to the Council for the DP and Wakili Mashari. The clips of the then DP route of labor in team, could we read it to mean that it's an admission on your part that you say, if it was done then by a sitting deputy president, please allow the current to commit the same at this point. And lastly, the 30% allocation to Fort Kenya in the coalition agreement with ANC, how has it been realized?
Thank you, Mr. Sugar, for giving me the opportunity. I have one small question for Honorable Minister, and that is on the witness. Somebody spoke by the name Peterson Jomo Mutia, who wrote an affidavit, whose one affidavit, the budget of Morning Finance Affairs. He offered himself to appear and it was examined on the content of his affidavit. Was he invited?
Senator Gachagua.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mine has just very clarifications. Number one goes to Honorable Mutuse. Honorable Mutuse, in round 7, you have said that His Excellency, the Deputy President, has been acceptable amongst humongous through the electoral one, proposed portfolio, estimated at 5.2 billion. So my question is, this is within 2 years. I know for a fact that before an election, any event in the country, 2 years into for us sometimes to see before protesting. Therefore, for comparative analysis, we were His Excellency the Deputy President's property award during the 2022, before the 2022 elections, so that now we can view as a jury, can be able to compare and see whether for 2 years, for sure, that they are able to advance this work. Number two, there is this property amendment. Many guys have told me to the last night asking me whether there is evidence to show that this land is in the last one is the council of the Deputy President. There was a clip which was played yesterday when the Deputy President made a press conference in the past. Immediately after the President did it in the full university. Therefore, I did not get clarity from the council about this question of the clip. So I was really requesting either one of them to expound on that controversy between the two presses in the cities where the two for the where the Assembly of the
Senator, please, on time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Honorable Tuesday. To whom does this question belong? Because in most of your answers, you keep on saying we.
That question was asked by Honorable Senator.
between an impeachment motion and a censure motion? And if it does, why does it place its motion? Is it a censure motion or is it an impeachment motion? And what are the thresholds for each of those two motions? If you understand the difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance. I have two questions. One for Honorable Mutuse. In your presentation, I heard that you touched on the inheritance and property of the late Gachagua. Have you reached out to the widow and the children of the late Gachagua to also give you facts? The next question is to the Council for the DP. Yesterday you made a clip of the President speaking in Morana. What was the purpose of playing that clip? And how does it relate to the saying popularly now used by Kenyans, Kufa Dereva, Kufa Makanga? Thank you.
Senator Gachagua.
My question goes to the Council for the DP on I wish to seek clarity on the documents that they tabled yesterday being the foundation arguments, basically form the basis as to which the DP has been talking about shares. I want to know whether there is any document that secures shares in respect of the region that the DP comes from. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, if the Council is aware that his client, at the time those documents were being prepared, he was a candidate for office, and now he successfully became VP, and that he needs to promote us immunity, and it is still in order for him to continue championing for the interest of one region and against the entire nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question or two, I would like to ask I don't think that you are as idiotic as our colleagues will say. I want to ask you, between the time when the Deputy President was a member of Parliament and the time when he became the Deputy President, were you able to see whether there was a deliberate variation in the amounts of money that he was handling? Did you see whether the money that he was handling as a member of Parliament, for example, changed then to the money that you were working, where you're saying that there is some money laundering taking place? Were you able, or are you able to show that distinction in order for you to make your case? The second question I wanted to ask you again on the same issue to find out whether there is money laundering on any transaction, and I know chances are you do not have the technical expertise and maybe an investigative agency to help you. But did you, by any chance, find out money moving from anywhere, either through His Excellency the Deputy President's private accounts, or any money that was being borrowed? Because I know that one property you mentioned that it was a loan, but all these other properties that you allege that the Deputy President had purchased, did you link that for money coming from some place or money coming from some illicit, like you say? Because I don't see that evidence on the table. And finally, I want to ask you again, Mr. Speaker, that if you look at the issue of the will of Mr. Gachagua, that is the former governor, did you by any chance get a way to ask either through the wife, the children, whether there was a meeting that took place where they were involved, or whether they were unhappy or happy with the transactions which were taking place? Because there isn't any evidence of, for example, the wife complaining or the children complaining. Do you get anything like that which is substantive? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My two questions go to you, Honorable Joseph. First, in regards to this company, by the name Crystal Kenya Limited, Ground 7, date of operation is 2009. And the CR12 that you have submitted to this house is for this year. Would you tell this house who was the initial director of this company? If that was so, was there any change of directorship of this company? Secondly, the one on trial is the deputy president of this country and not his two sons. You have linked Crystal to be a proxy for the deputy president through his two sons. Would you tell this house if you have any evidence that shows that money was wired from Crystal Limited to the account or to any company linked to the deputy president?
Senator Gachagua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to Honorable Joseph. If Judge Maina had filed any complaints regarding being harassed by the deputy president. Thank you.
Senator
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question goes to Mr. Moduse. Is it your opinion that the DP was talking about enforcing the Kenya Kwanza coalition argument when he was speaking about the shareholding issue? And the second one goes to the DP side, that we were reminded here of the oath we took when we assumed this institution. Is it in your place to say that your client has breached his own oath even before we make a conclusion? Because we were meant to read the third schedule here on justice and directly and indirectly revealing such matters and the oath of secrecy that His Excellency the Deputy President took. In his utterances, he used to speak about not the Mulima being touched. So in the essence of national unity, don't you think that your client, the DP, or you will clarify for us that he has already breached his own oath even before we make a decision as the jury of this house? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. issues that happen. Well, Speaker, I want to find out from out of the two companies that you alleged as associated with the deputy president, how many area of interest in this particular impeachment? Yesterday you talked about the one in the report, and we sold 10,000 of the shares. The total shares are owned by the estate of the late Governor Gachagua. Then, according to the Speaker, is the tweets that were made yesterday on the shareholding. I think I want to ask the legal counsel for the deputy president. It looks like we did stop campaigns after election. It looks like we continue to provocate campaigns because the deputy president made after campaigns. We stopped the offices on share because
the clients at the National Assembly have given instructions. However, tell me what is the relevance of the verse they read yesterday, and also on the floor of the National Assembly, they read about when bad leaders grow, badness increases in the country, and when good leaders grow, goodness increases in the country. Finally, what is the maximum number of companies that an individual participate in?
Honorable, to say you may not proceed to respond. You have exactly 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable senators, for this opportunity. I am, from the questions that have come across, there are many that relate to the companies, and the targets allow me to start from there. Senator Cheriot, Senator from Margaret, and several senators have asked why I listed 21 companies and why I said I do not have an interest in some of them. Number one, I think it is important for us to understand the context within which you operate. I am not an investigator. And the law under Article 94, Article 95, does not make a member of Parliament, the National Assembly or Senate, an investigator. What I'm required to do is to establish a prima facie case, to establish that what is happening is outside the requirements of the law. And having been in this country and with a lot of enthusiasm in matters governance, I also know that this Senate has the opportunity to consider the impeachment of the late Gachagua. And in that impeachment, if you go this House of Records, you will realize that most of the companies that are listed were also complained about by the County Assembly of Nairobi during the impeachment of Governor Gachagua. And the complaint was specifically that there was a brother to the late governor, and the brother is one regarding Gachagua, who was doing all the business in Nairobi County. And from that basis, therefore, I needed to expound to find out what these companies that have been complained about during that impeachment, what these companies that have been complained about in the SMM position in terms of money laundering came to do with the deputy president and the things that I'm alleging against him. And it is on that basis that I listed these companies. I want to invite members of this Senate to also know that in doing this, it is not just about the direct evidence, it is also about the circumstantial evidence. It's also about the circumstances that led to where we are. That there are companies that were complained about doing business in every county. It came to this Senate. That the same companies were complained about doing money laundering and acquisition of the High Court by Justice Marina has been tabled before you. And today we are complaining that the same companies are helping to do corruption and money laundering. And that's the reason why we bring those companies. Please notice that in an impeachment, because I've been asked for pressure that I know you know about it. My work here is not to prove criminal liability. It is not to prove beyond reasonable doubt. My work here is not to prove civil liability, but to show political responsibility. And I have been able to do that. In terms of privilege, the question I want to invite honorable senators, and I request that you listen to me. I was told yesterday that the privilege, the two sons of His Excellency the Deputy President are mere directors, and that the shares are owned by the estate of the late Senate Gachagua. But then you ask yourself, all of you here, you have children. Why would my brother's children own my estate and not my children? Why would my brother's children be the ones who are directors in my estate and not my own children? If you like to do, will the children be the ones being directors of your properties, or it is the children of your brothers? Don't you see this is suspicious? It is obviously suspicious. Number two in law, and I want to challenge anyone. An estate, what is an estate? An estate is the totality of your belongings. So, can an estate own an estate? It is administrators. We would expect that the executors in the estate, who are named in the will, are the ones who have been named in the shares. And we know all these tricky games that are being played around to hide ownership. And that, because I talked about circumstantial evidence, that is to be compared with the affidavit of Mr. Jomo. In terms of how Jomo was approached to be proxy in buying the property, and how the head of the question that has been asked is the one operating the account. And we have been able to show that the same Jahenda, the same lady who works at the DP's office, is the same person who is the manager at the hotel and is the one who is operating the accounts. So I invite you to see the web of secrecy, the web of conspiracy. It is a web. And this is why I say these are white collar crimes. They are done by intelligent people. Sometimes it becomes very difficult to get direct evidence, but in the totality of the circumstances, it involves to money laundering and corruption. Let me now go to Senator Onami, my good friend Senator Jeremy. Thank you very much for the Bible verse. I will keep on reading it, and every time I read it, I will remember you. 5.2 billion more. Did I ask for the oath declaration? I have said here I was not in an investigation journey. I was doing my role under the law to establish a prima facie case. And the last I know, in terms of public declaration report, this has also been answered. The Deputy President, during the presidential debate, as a candidate for election, did declare that he was worth 800 million shillings. I have listed companies, I have listed suspicious transactions that lead me to the conclusion that he is now worth 5.2 billion shillings. The law on unexplained assets, because this is important. The law on unexplained assets is such that you are asked, you own this, please tell us how you acquired it. Because as far as you know, your legitimate income cannot support this. That is what I have done. I have listed properties that I have made evidence that they are either directly or indirectly owned by the Deputy President. It is upon him, and this law is established. It is upon him to tell us where he got money to buy those properties, because in as far as you know, his legitimate sources of income do not support that income. Senator Kinyo, thank you for the question. Treetop Hotel is owned by the KWS and therefore is a public institution. The expectation at law is that it should be, if it was to be leased, that needed to follow the Public Procurement and Disposal Act. And therefore we have expected an advertisement, a competitive process, to lead him to the interposition and listen to a private person. There is no evidence that that was done, and that's why I allege and I have proved that the Deputy President used his office to influence the acquiring of Treetops Hotel, abuse of office. Whether we have had opportunity to discuss with the children and the widows of the late Senate Gachagua, please allow me not to comment on that because there are requests also, as I said yesterday, that we keep certain matters that come to our knowledge during this process in secrecy. Senator for Samburu, the necessity of including the companies, I have said. The children of the children of Gachagua, they are in, I think one is in his early 30s, the other one is in his late 20s. Whether there is a net limit for somebody to obtain a loan of 700 million, no, there isn't a net limit. The guess, you are the money. How many children of that age in the Republic of Kenya will have security enough to secure a loan of 600 million? Because to secure a loan of 600 million, the bank has told us that you are less poverty, probably at 10 times more in value than that. When did they acquire that property? Number two, it is not our evidence, and this is important for me to clarify, that Amadeus, upon knowledge, was acquired through a loan. It is an explanation that we have discovered. He is saying that they obtained a loan of 600 million, but the only document that was produced is an offer letter for the loan. There is no evidence to show that the loan was granted. There is no evidence to show any charge on that loan. And therefore, it is our contention that that explanation is not conclusive. That explanation cannot suffice. And therefore, it goes back to the Deputy President to tell us where he got the 5.5 million, where he got the 1.3 million to buy those properties, because the loan is not substantiated. In terms of the olive gardens, we have been able to show Julian Dahenda, the one managing the hotel, and the one working in the DP's office is one and the same person. Jomo, he bought the hotel on a promise that the Deputy President, the truth of the matter is that Jomo bought the hotel as a proxy for the Deputy President. Whether what problem we have with the refurbishment at the office of the Deputy President, we do not have a problem with the tender, we have a problem with the priorities. Kenyans today, and the Deputy President is talking about it, are carrying about services. Is it a priority to renovate the office, or is it a priority to give water to the people of the place? Whether you would increase your love to your children or to the children of your family. Senator Omeru, from the response by the deputy that he actually wants a property in Meru, so I did not need to be left out. That is, he has already admitted he owns a property in Meru, that he says he got a loan from one of the local circles. He has not produced evidence for that loan. And therefore, to my contention, that issue is already closed. In terms of the NIS address in Mombasa and why we complain about it, imagine, and I do not want to imagine that. Somebody was a member of Al-Shabaab, and the Deputy President, none other than the Deputy President, stood up and said our intelligence system has collapsed. Would that be the right time to strike? That is the risk that the country faced by that particular announcement. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Let us have the second witness.
It is, I think, a shame that we speak on for the rest of these years and a half.
Council for the deputy first.
Yes.
There are very few clarifications that I actually was.
Yes.
I'll give you five. You are not responding to the clarifications by Mr. I'm responding to the clarifications.
That's the ones I so Honorable Speaker, I have got a number of clarifications, especially this issue, this about. Thank you very much. Now, I began my cross-examination of the Honorable Mufuse yesterday with asking him how long he has practiced law and what law he has practiced. The problems you have as Senate, as a quasi-judicial body, are born out of inexperience of legal practice. If he has practiced in succession law, I'm not going to question. I'm not going to
What is the source of this?
I have to make a living. He answered the question.
Yes, council was giving.
I just wanted to say that the National Assembly was provided with an affidavit by its executors for the weight of the late David Gachagua. It is before you. It is volume number 4, stated called the part affidavit of David Gachagua. Sorry, it said to be before you. In that affidavit, the two executors state in comprehensive detail everything concerning that estate. There are forms. 1. The estate property was divided in accordance with the will. The public matter commenced and went all the way to the end to conclusion. All issues were resolved with the cortex in a sense and now rest to have. That is issue number 1. Issue number 2. You will find in that affidavit between pages 11 and pages 19.
Who saw that?
I was asked, the question was asked, I think, by Senator Bruno asked.
You don't respond to what
Senator
Bruno senators respond.
That's what the point.
So who is going to
Senator Bruno asked, can you please address the question of disinheriting the wills? He answered the matter. I believe that's what I'm answering. Yes. And so the will, as I'm explaining, does not disinherit the children or the widows or anybody else. It is merely because in the motion brought before you, there were properties listed in the motion that were part of the estate. That is the only reason this estate has become a subject of proceedings before the Senate and the National Assembly. So when you look at the will, as I said, between pages 11 to 12, at page 13, if you have the document before you, this is volume number 4. There is a long list of how this estate was divided. And I won't go through it to be able to read it. So that's number 1. Number 2, you will see an affidavit by the executors, except the deputy president who did not sign the affidavit. These are the 2 remaining executors who have signed it. Explaining between pages 4 and page 9, everything that was done in accordance with the law and in accordance with the law of succession, and that no one's property was taken away.
Senator Duro, you know, proceed, Council.
Yes. Now, I've been asked some questions about the issue of the moral video and about the shareholder agreements and whether 2 wrongs make a right. Our position is the opposite. Our position was that the address by the President Adi Moran was in fact in confirmation of agreements. The President was merely saying that they are implementing the agreements they agreed upon, and it was incumbent upon his deputy to assist his President in confirming that they were implementing the agreements. That is the purpose of the video, that is the purpose of those agreements. It is not to say, Makanga, whatever, I think Senator Fair asked that question. It is to say, Okwedi Makanga, Namokoe Tereva. That is what they're asking you this morning. Senator,
Senator has asked about the interrelation between Article 91 and Article 232 and how those interact with the agreement. If I would call your attention or senators to the contracts themselves again, I don't know if you have them. The contracts are in volume 3, and I'm referring you to page 429. At page 429, this is what the agreement is, and I'm really, this is the primary agreement that was signed between UDA and between for Kenya and ANC. This is what it says. Further terms, parameters, and details of the sharing of position of responsibility in the national government pursuant to this article shall be contained in a separate change to this agreement, which change shall be negotiated and executed before the date of the general election scheduled on 9 August. So there was subsequent agreements executed on how these shares will be divided into agreement. That is issue number 1. Question number 2, the parties gave themselves some room, and you'll see this at page 430. This is Article 22, Sub-Article G. Notwithstanding the content of this article, the founding member parties hereby commit to make any adjustments that may be necessary to accommodate the development priorities of other parts of the country to ensure equitable distribution of Kenya's national resources and wealth for the benefit of every citizen and every part of Kenya. When the Deputy President takes his stand, we will be demonstrating to you with videos where both he and his boss, the President, went out of their way to say that the voting did not matter to how we are going to implement the development agenda. I think I was asked whether there are any contracts or agreements that were signed on behalf of Mount Kenya. I did not see any. We don't have any thus far. There were several contracts from Mount Kenya, but they did not negotiate anything. Then, an important question. The Deputy President did not say the government is a company when we the statement. He was making an example. Is yet a company. It was a tool to explain a document. That's what he was doing. I'm pressed for time here. Yes, Senator Rowe asked a question about students being right and whether the current DP is conceding that because he did what the former DP did, that then he is guilty. Again, far from the truth. We are asserting, when you read the documents, the document at page 412, this is the article where the President spoke, the former Deputy President spoke in Moya. This is what he said. The Deputy President reiterated that he used to ask tough questions when attending the National Security Council meeting about schemes of money. It is something that has troubled me a lot, and that is why we have put it to the Kenyan Government Manifesto that extrajudicial killing must come to an end. It is illegal and constitutional and offense every principle of the right of life. In law, there is no secrecy where crimes are committed or the violation of the Constitution. The Deputy President was being following the mentorship of the man who occupied office before him and was not releasing any secret that did not concern the legality or constitutionality. So that leads to the question of secrecy I think that was asked. And because of shortage of time, I'll allow my another colleague, Mr. Elisha White, to come and answer the questions. Thank you very much, Honorable Senators, for your 10 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, 10 minutes will be enough.
No, we need to know how much time you have. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker, for the Deputy President.
Proceed, Council.
Thank you. To the question whether the Deputy President is aware that county governments are distinct, our answer is simple. Governments at national and county levels are distinct and interdependent. So the constitutional architecture is not to create pigeonholes, is to create cooperative and interdependent governments. And just to quote that argument, you will notice that the allegation against the Deputy President on the Nairobi legal relocation is not that he destabilized Nairobi County government, is that he refused to support implementation of a resolution of cabinet and national government institutions. Meaning that at that level, that was the understanding that it was an intergovernmental approach to clean up Nairobi River. On the question of Julian Jahenda, allow me to say this. The person who has brought Julian Jahenda in these proceedings is a deponent of an affidavit. Allow us to hold him to account on that affidavit when he comes to testify himself, because we have questions for him around this witness. True. Then, finally, on the question of Treetops Hotel, there is a very clear distinction. Treetops Hotel was not acquired by the company in question from KWS. Treetops Hotel was an assignment of lease. When the Kenya government issued a lease, say 99 years, you can sell that lease. So it was an assignment of lease that was already assigned by KWS to a third party. So the construction that a company associated with the electric president, rightly or wrongly, got this property from KWS, that's very wrong. There was a completely different private property that had a lease. Then that company holding that lease assigned that lease. Thank you so much. My 2 minutes are over.
The second witness. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question to Mr. Muller. Mr. Muller, if you look at the response in volume 6 by the Deputy President, the Deputy President says as follows, 4.2, volume 6, which is in page 11. In response to the allegations that you called, or he called you, to be able to push for the vehicle. He said that this is claim paragraph 4 of the witness affidavit of Andrew Mulwa. He contradicts himself by claiming that on the 11th July 2023, I pressured him to surrender the original vehicle, yet by the letter dated 5th of May 2023, KEMSA had requested for collections of the original bid. Thus there was no cause for pressure to be exerted on Mr. Mulwa or any other person. Now, in your affidavit on page 70, you put an excerpt of your WhatsApp or communication between yourself and Dr. Rigadi, where Dr. Rigadi is alleged said, Dr. Ikunu Rigadi here, kindly contact me when possible. There is a document for a chief we are trying to collect. In the same affidavit, you connect 3 letters. One letter dated June 30th, and I want you to keep in mind of the 30th of May. June 30th, which is a letter sent to you, sent from KEMSA to EACC, requesting for the vehicle. That is June 30th. That is a month after the date that the Deputy President alleges to have received information from KEMSA asking him to collect the vehicle. Secondly, you have a letter dated 11th July, where you communicate to the company called Shapika Index Private Limited, asking them to collect the vehicle. Yesterday, when you're being cross-examined, you said that you were afraid. You felt pressure when the Deputy President called you, allegedly, and asked you to surrender the vehicle. Could you please give us a chronological events Because this letter is dated 11th that you sent to them. You alleged that the deputy president called you on 11th. There were 17 companies, and I know this because
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also wish to ask Dr. Andrew Muller the following. Confirm if the Deputy President did call you. 2, kindly confirm if Shopita Impex Private Limited, whose agent in Kenya is Crystal Kenya Limited, had demanded that one of the winner of the 3.7 billion mosquito tender before the tender. And finally, what was the issue with the bid bond that you said yesterday you were trying to go bid from EACC? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Speaker. My question is directed to Mutuse and maybe his lawyers. Yes, I'm directing it to his lawyers. Please, can you give me my time? I didn't know when you are talking. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me go ahead. Thank you. One of my questions is about the speech which Honorable Mutuse said that the Deputy President addressed in Mombasa. My question is there any law preventing either the President or the Deputy President from intervening if they see any failures with the National Intelligence Services? Is there any law preventing them from intervening or questioning the National Intelligence Service, or is there any law directing them where they should ask these questions from? 2, the lady, Honorable Justice Esther Maina, has she ever made any complaint after the case was done? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to Dr. Mulwa. Dr. Mulwa, I can attest that the number you put here, through which His Excellency the President pressured you, he left away with me because in the days you used to talk to him, I used to use the same number. Your evidence is so critical that we would like you to walk us through that conversation between the Deputy President and yourself, during which time he was putting pressure on you. Mr. Speaker, sir, from Masharia Council, you are a man of many years of experience, and you know the hierarchy of laws. The Constitution is at the apex, and all of the laws are subservient. In your attempt to justify, or rather protect, and secure the Deputy President from the accusation that he breached the Constitution, Article 27, which prohibits him from discrimination, you have chosen to justify by using an act of power that has been committed for that, but is acted provides for the alternate. Tell me, are you telling me that by dint of that act, which is subservient to the Constitution, which the Deputy President violated, therefore the act sets him free? And finally, my younger brother, Ongoya, you have told us that
for Mutusle to be able to prove that there was insubordination, he needed to bring something from the supervisor of the deputy president.
Senator Amir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remember I am the one who raised this motion, this statement on the constituent for investigation. So I am so much aware of this investigation that went on. But Dr. Mulo, apart from the financial loss that KEMSA incurred, with the alleged interference of the relationship, the alleged interference affects the relationship between the Global Fund and KEMSA. Because I remember, of course, the tender was terminated, which was about 3.7 billion. Global Fund terminated the tender. So was there any relationship loss between the two? Number two, did the PS Josephine Muru and CEO Terry Ramadan lose their jobs due to this tender process, during the tendering process of the Procurement tender? Number three, did you feel intimidated and coerced to act given the office of the DP? Thank you.
Senator Ofola.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Daktari Mulo, madai kwamba ulipata simu kutoka kwa naibu rais kufuatilia jambo linalohusu wanao. Wewe kama mtumishi wa umma, unapopata simu kutoka kwa kiongozi wako wa taifa akifuata yale yanayohusu wanao, unaona ni vyema kutekeleza jinsi anavyotaka ama kufuata katiba ili kutetea yeyote aliyeomba nafasi ya kufanya kazi? Asante sana Mheshimiwa
Senator Amir.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Mimi swali langu ni kwa Daktari Mulo kwamba hii zabuni ulisema kwa imefikiwa wapi? Je, wakati imefikiwa wapi kuna hasara yoyote ilitokea kwa serikali ama kwa KEMSA kutokana na kufikiwa kwa zabuni hiyo? Pili ni kuwa wewe kama mkurugenzi wa KEMSA ulichukua hatua gani ulipopata simu au ulipopata maelezo kutoka kwa naibu wa rais kwamba hiyo tenda ama hiyo zabuni itoe fulani? Asante.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Dr. Muru, I have two related questions to you. One, is the return of billboards part of the procurement process? And if it is part of the procurement process, would you say that a call from the Deputy President on this issue amounts to interfering with the procurement process? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. My question is to Dr. Muna, that you said DP calls you. Is there, when he calls you, is there any interference with the procurement process? Thank you.
Witness, you will now proceed to make a clarification as sought by the Honorable Senator. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and honorable senators. I will try to answer the questions that have been put forward on the matter of the procurement of the long-lasting commitments by the various senators. Mr. Speaker, the Senator for now asked me to give a chronology of what happened, so that I may be able to bring out the issue of the pressure that I got from His Excellency the President, and alluded to the letter that I have submitted in regard to tenders. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, sir, on around the end of April, the Global Fund brought to the Kenya Global Fund Management Office communicating the award review decision to terminate the procurement of the 3.7 billion mosquito net tenders. Mr. Speaker, sir, this was after the procurement had been done earlier on in February by KEMSA, and it's a usual procedure during the procurement under the Global Fund. After the evaluation of the tenders, the evaluation report is shared with the Global Fund to authenticate if full procurement procedures and law have been followed. On review, the Global Fund realized that the tender which the evaluation committee had recommended to be awarded to one Shortcut Index Limited had an issue. And Mr. Speaker, I will refer to the report which I shared in the document. In the motion, this is page 76 out of page 5. Mr. Speaker, and honorable senators, if you look at the report that I'm referring to, the report down there as a stamp of the 21st of February 2023, having been received by one Monica at 9:07 a.m. Mr. Speaker, sir, this tender was running at the time this report is being received. The tender was closed on the 10th of March. But the earlier closure, which therefore people did not come as part of the tender document. Usually, reports are annexed to the tender document, and therefore these reports then cannot be made. Further, if you look on top of that page, it's written PD, which is Procurement Department, FYKF, for your necessary action, and I can confirm the signature for the CEO who was there told me on the 23rd of February while the tender was open. In other words, the Speaker, sir, this report already had issues even before the tender closed and was open. And therefore, the report was submitted outside the tender document, which is already an irregularity in the procurement. Mr. Speaker, after the cancellation of this tender, the Global Fund, this issue became brought an outcome, and as a result, the CEO and officials from the Ministry of Health and KEMSA were suspended as a result. The CS was actually dismissed. And the Speaker, an investigation was instituted by the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, the ESCC, both houses of Assembly and Senate investigation into the procurement anomaly. Mr. Speaker, one company wrote to us on 5th of around June 12 or thereabout, asking for return of people. This company was Shobika, and we were able to, we don't have the document because ASC and other investigation agents had taken the original document. And therefore, we wrote back and informed them of the state. And when July came, I think the investigations were happening, officers were doing statements, and that is when I got a call from the deputy president asking me to surrender the big court to Dr. Ricardo King. On the same day, because I got ACC, I informed them that, and for the record, Honorable Speaker, I have never received a call from anyone about my cabinet secretary. This was the first time I received a call from a sitting deputy president and posting for documents that were the investigation. The Speaker, in my 15 years of public service, I have never been asked to do that. And therefore, I felt hard, and I had to leave the business that I had for the day, go to the SEC, follow up the big board, so that I am able to give. I was actually able to write a letter to them and follow it up, because I did a letter earlier, and I followed up and sat there for 5 hours for them to start the big board. And on the same day, I wrote a letter and called for them to collect the big board. I think Mr. Speaker has explained the conversation and the pressure that I felt as an officer serving in public service. I have explained that the company that had been awarded this tender through the technical evaluation was Shobika Index, whose local agent, sole agent, is Christoph Limited. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have watched the Senate through the conversation that I had with the question asked by Honorable Dr. Bonyawan on what transpired and how we are able to get the people. Yes, beyond the financial loss, Mr. Speaker, the nets that you are supposed to buy, you are supposed to buy 14 million nets and attempts at procurement. As a result of purchasing these nets through the global fund, work system, we could only purchase 10.2 million nets. Global fund could only supply 10.2 million nets. That means Kenya lost 3 million or so nets as well. Secondly, there was a delay. We were supposed to implement the distribution of nets to the public from September 2023. That was not possible as a result of the delay. We were only able to start distribution of the nets from January this year. In effect, there was a loss in terms of money, there was a loss in terms of number of nets, and 3, there was a loss in terms of citizens did not enjoy the protection that they were gotten for the nets in the time that had been envisaged. Indeed, I can confirm that I mentioned that PS Josephine was dismissed and acting CEO and other officers were also suspended. About following the law, when I got the call from the Speaker and Senators, I was able to consult the investigation authority, and through correspondence, I was able to get the document as per the law, and therefore I did not in any way go out of the law. That's what. Is the return of people the Speaker of the time you have? Thank you. Mr. Speaker, whether return of people is
procurement, indeed return of people is not part of the procurement process per se, but after the procurement process, return of people is a usual procedure. Because people are given commitment, funds, insurances, and therefore return people in that procedure. The extraordinary circumstance in this matter is one, the seaport that is submitted was not part of the legislative process, and number two, this was a matter that was under investigation. And therefore, for the Deputy President to push for the people to return, it means that he was pushing for interference or an investigation that was already ongoing. I already have found that I personally go ESC to get the report. Mr. Speaker, I submit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Speaker and honorable members, Honorable Nairobi asked a question from the law. Indeed, there's a hierarchy of laws. It's the Constitution, the laws, and subsidiary legislation. And I cannot support meditating governments.
Council, 5 minutes.
Yes, I should say this with tremendous respect. The hierarchy of laws, the infrastructure of laws, is that there are provisions left in the Constitution as self-executing. The Constitution then delegates to Senate and National Assembly the power to make laws to execute certain of its provisions. And to that extent, that statute carries constitutional authority because it is made pursuant to a constitutional provision. And that will be the case with the Political Parties Act. At Article 91 and Article 92, the Constitution prescribes what political parties and the regulation of political parties and coalitions must contain and must do. If a statute is unconstitutional, then the High Court, as it has done many times, then strikes down that statute as unconstitutional. The Political Parties Act, as currently framed, and the basis upon which these coalition agreements were drawn, and it is that in a government formed on the basis of those agreements have not been found to be unconstitutional. So we're not saying that any wrong was done. We're in fact saying everything was done in accordance with the Constitution of the law. Number two, when His Excellency the President stands to make an address before you, among the things he'll be showing in great detail with documentation and with video is the length to which not only he, but his ultimate post control, his post, the President, and the entire government went to ensure that the development was spread across the country. And I think, as I demonstrated a few minutes ago here, the contracts themselves indicated that there will be need for flexibility to ensure that you're within the Constitution. That did not derogate from the requirement by the parties to implement and to obey and to ensure the contracts were implemented. So are done constitutionally. And then finally again, I think I keep emphasizing, they talked about government, they didn't talk about tribes, they didn't talk about regions, and they ensure that the constitutional requirements, as I think Senator Whitty had asked me, at Article 91 and 232 were complied with. Thank you very much.
Council for the National Assembly. Clarification sought by procedure that we close and move on to 30 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The first question was whether there is any law preventing the Deputy President from intervening when they see the dubious in the National Intelligence Service. The answer is that the oath of due execution of the office of the Deputy President, which is in the Constitution, is part of our Constitution, prohibits the Deputy President from disclosing matters especially those relating to national security, that are committed to its secrecy. And therefore it was a violation of his oath of office, it was a violation of the Constitution to discuss matters of that nature at a time in the circumstances prevailing in a press conference broadcast to the whole world. There is a constitutional forum to raise those issues. And indeed, the Deputy President, I won't believe very many other officers, even ordinary citizens can write to that National Security Council if they have genuine grievances about its operations, or its personnel, or its capabilities and performance. Mr. Speaker, when that oath of office, which is part of our Constitution, says matters committed to the secrecy of the Deputy President are not to be divulged, it is an acknowledgement by our Constitution that there are certain matters which by their very nature they are not to be broadcast. The Zoe usimwage mtama kwenye kuweka. Some things require discretion, they require you to be terrified, and they require you to know the forum and the occasion to do it. And therefore, it is no answer. Even if we were to accept, for argument's sake, that all the grievances the Deputy President had are factually correct, it will still be no answer to that charge. The second question was whether Justice Maina has made any complaint after the case was done. We are not aware of any complaint lodged by the Honorable Lady Justice Maina. But that question, Mr. Speaker, also tells you why this is an impeachable offense. Those who know our Constitution of theory say judges won't play that sport, nor the past. The reason our Constitution protects judges and puts them in a special place is because unlike politicians and the executive, they have no way and no forum of dealing with harassment from the political branches of government. But if we are wrong in that, Mr. Speaker, again why I'm very happy with this question, let's accept for argument's sake that indeed Justice Maina could have lodged a complaint, because it's possible she would have walked to a police station, met an OCS there, recorded a complaint and a statement. Dr. Mugo has been here as a junior officer. The practicalities of an OCS, a police constable, summoning the Deputy President of the Republic to respond to a complaint. The whole spectre from autographing, taking fingerprints, processing the Deputy President to take him to the magistrate's court to undergo a criminal offense would subject that office to so much indignity. And because the design of our Constitution is that people in certain offices, in fact the Constitution of X is that they should behave in a manner that brings honor and dignity to the office. It is to save the country the drama, the spectacle of a junior police officer, a junior prosecutor, harassing, arresting, prosecuting a deputy. And because we don't want to subject our democracy to this kind of showbiz, that is why this Senate is vested with the power of impeachment, and that is why our Supreme Court has said several times, as I pointed out yesterday, the test is not whether he is criminally liable or civilly liable, which is the business of the division. I so submit, Mrs. Speaker.
Council President, you may call your third.
Speaker, distinguished Senate Gachagua, our next witness is Abdi Mahmoud. He is his own witness.
It is true that this witness was called pursuant to a summons of the Senate, but normally a witness is called to produce a particular document or to produce a particular item. As we stand now, none of us knows what this witness is coming to produce. We can't even pull it out, these massive documents. We want to go on record that this is trial by ambush. We will know for the first time what this witness come here to do when he is speaking. I am that on record, but before he starts, I want him to tell us what documents this witness wants to rely on, so that against all the evidence we have witnessed, at least we can have some semblance of looking at it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The documents to be identified by the witness are contained in volume 88 of our document. Calling the witness.
Now, just to remind the department is conclude the case, and the council deputy president is still allowed 5 minutes after this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I intend to use 15 minutes to take the witness. 5 minutes for candidates.
So before the witness testimony, counsel for the deputy secretary, you confirm now that you understand and you know the documents that the witness is used as contained in body documents and these are the documents that we, with respect to which I made a ruling for half the time. We do, Your Speaker. So much, Council. Yeah. So this is, we cannot, under the chair has not allowed prior proceedings.
Abdi Ahmed Mahmoud, do solemnly swear that the evidence that I shall give before the Senate in respect of the matters before the Senate shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me
big role. So I want to start introduce myself as a Senate work, rank, and opening yes, work without institution.
Thank you. My name is Abdi Mahmoud. I'm the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Ethics and Corruption Commission. I have worked at the Commission since 2005. I started off as a senior investigator. Right now, I'm the Deputy Chief Executive Officer. My main responsibilities are to assist the Chief Executive Officer of the Commission in the day-to-day running of the Commission, among others. Another key role and responsibility that I hold at the Commission is that I chair the Commission Management Committee on Investigation Evaluation. Basically, I have been an investigator since 2005 when I joined the Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahmoud. You are before the Senate this morning. Already someone says your issue with your institution. And in some cases, the 3 areas of the game that you finished up on those 3 areas which you are guided to.
If I may refer to the document, the system. Thank you. So there are 3 areas that I was requested to comment on. The first one is an investigation that the Commission conducted on a procurement on the supply of long-lasting insecticide nets at the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency, KEMSA. The second issue that I was to comment on is the declaration of gifts and donations received by His Excellency the Director Gachagua, the Deputy President, during his tenure out of the office to date, pursuant to Section 14(5) of the Leadership and Integrity Act. The third issue that I was to comment on is the declaration of conflict of interest made to the Ethics and Corruption Commission by His Excellency the Director Gachagua.
So we go the first issue which you are asked to address yourself. And I wish to refer to the Honorable Speaker to our bundle 8 of our documents. Can you identify the document at page 3 of that document?
Yes, I can identify. This is a letter that we did to the clerk of the National Assembly on 23rd September 2024. It was responding to a letter that we received from the National Assembly requesting us to furnish the National Assembly with information on the investigation that we conducted on the long-lasting insecticide nets and to indicate in our responses any outcome or status of the investigation that we did.
So your letter is that volume relates to procurement of certain expenses.
You're correct.
You have raised the Senate, sorry, the National Assembly in that letter. You have raised the Senate on its content.
The content is the procurement of long-lasting insecticides by KEMSA. This was in the year 2023, and the Commission, in its functions, either it conducts investigation on its own motion or at the instigation of other parties. For this particular investigation, we did receive a letter from the CS, who was then in charge of the Ministry of Health, indicating that there were certain irregularities in a procurement of insecticide nets by the KEMSA, and the CSM wanted us to conduct investigation and find out whether certain procurement irregularities did take place. And from that, we actually did carry out investigation, and the outcome of the investigation so far is already reflected in the letter that we provided.
And what was the outcome of the investigation?
There were serious procurement challenges that affected that particular tender. The major one was change of specifications to suit a company called Shodika Intex Limited, which was having, which had a local agent by the name of Limited that had the sole the responsibility, or rather the sole function, to provide certain chemicals, certain mosquitoes that had certain chemicals. So basically what the investigation concluded is that there are two types of chemicals that were used on this particular nest. If I may read one of them, one is called synergist piperolene long-lasting insecticide nets, while the other one is pyrethroid long-lasting insecticide nets. So this company had the sole distribution rights on this chemical called PTO, and from the investigation, we realized that the PS at that particular time did write to the CEO of KEMSA, instigating or rather compelling the CEO of KEMSA to change the specifications so that it can fit the chemical that was to be provided by Shodika Intex Limited, whose local agent was Bristol Kenya Limited. Basically, that was the starting point. The other problem was that when the tender was closed on the company, this is Shodika Intex Limited, at that particular time wanted to have a billboard introduced into the tender document. Yet we all know that in the procurement, the tender document, the billboard is supposed to be part of the tender document. They're supposed to be delivered there. But in this circumstance, the billboard was delivered by hand to the CEO's office on 23rd, where the tender was supposed to go. So they have to find a way of extending the period of closure up to 10th of the next month of March, so that that particular bit on which are issues can now be factored in, or rather regularized, and so that this company called Shodika would benefit out of that particular extension. Of course, there are many other issues. Like, we also realize that at the end of when the tender was discontinued, for example, there is a company called TNG, called the National Trading Company, that was among the bidders that initially bid for this particular thing. They were disqualified on the fact that they were not authorized by a manufacturer. This company had provided sufficient evidence and proof that they actually manufacturers. So a company that is a manufacturer was disqualified on the ground that they did not provide authorization from a manufacturer, yet they are actually manufacturers. So those are some of the challenges that the tenants have.
At the end of the day, what became of this tender?
At the end of what happens is, after the technical committee of the KEMSA did recommend Shodika to be awarded the tender for this tender was actually was being financed by brokers. So the argument was after the tender evaluation committee report is over, that report is to be handed over to the finances. So when that report was surrendered and handed over to the global fund, the global fund realized,
you say that the evaluation of PEMSA made a recommendation that should be
awarded. That was the finding. That was the recommendation of the technical committee.
What happened?
What happened is the global fund decided to terminate the tender and asked an internal firm, or rather an internal organization called WOPO, which is the procuring arm of global fund, to do the procurement. And eventually, one of the companies that were actually disqualified because they were not authorized by a manufacturer ended up winning that tender. Today with another firm called Textile. So those were the eventual winners, but that was after the termination of the recommendation by the technical committee of PEMSA.
So, just to drive back to the Senate, a company which had been disqualified by PEMSA ended up being the supplier.
That is
following the process which was undertaken by Global.
That is true.
What became of this people?
Well, when we were investigating this, when the investigation was not going, we collected all the reports of the firms that actually bid, so that not only the reports but all the documents that related to the tender, so that we would evaluate as record statements. Now, the one that had issues was this one for shopping. But when the tender was terminated, ordinarily there will be no need to hold on to tenders or on the documents submitted by the tenderers, and they usually return. But for this particular one, because it was a questions document, the CEO of Kansas to the ESCC, requesting for that document, and eventually we did hand over the document to him after recommending disciplinary action against all officers who were involved in the tender process, starting with the CEO, the technical committee members, the head of procurement agency. So this particular document we collected with the certified copy, which will be collected in case there will need to be office investigation, because there could have been other offenses that could come out of the investigation.
Did you hand over the vehicles for the other company that was supposed to be
they were done?
Let's go to the second issue which was identified in the invite. The problem we should start with the third, which relates to conflict of interest by state officers and public officers. You are a long-serving officer of Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. I suppose you are familiar with conflict of interest in terms of the Constitution, and regulatory procedures. If you are Vice President, on that.
Okay, thank you. So conflict of interest is actually addressed under Section 16 of the Leadership and Integrity Act. And it clearly states that a state officer or a public officer shall use the best efforts to avoid being in a situation where personal interest conflict or appear conflict with the state officers or public officers' official duties. Now, when we talk of personal interest, we look at Section 6, which explains what are the personal interest includes interest interest of spouse, child, business associates, agents, or any other person which the state officer or public officer has a direct interest. Basically, in practice, what happens is that we also have the regulation which is the subsidiary law of that particular act. If you look at the conflict of interest, what if that particular part 3 of the leadership and integrity regulations clearly specifies how conflict of interest is considered by public officers.
And in summary, how are state officers engaged in special policy?
All public institutions are actually required to maintain a conflict of interest registers, which can be inspected by individuals upon application. That is the starting point. If, for example, a public officer or a state officer feels that he is conflicted, he is supposed to declare the conflict in that particular register. And you know, the commission also has a role in that the commission is actually mandated to enforce and implement the Leadership and Integrity Act together with the regulations.
And you say, that is correct, you say that conflict of interest extends to children, houses, and businesses. That is correct.
That is correct. That is subsection 6, section 16.
Let's go to the third issue, which is inflation. Gifts.
Okay, gifts. If you look at section 14 of the Leadership and Integrity Act, together with section 5 of the regulations of the same act, it is clearly indicated that gifts received by a public officer is a donation to the state. That is what regulation 5 indicates. If you go down there, you will also see that a state officer or public officer who receives a gift whose value exceeds 20,000 shillings shall be given for 8 hours for reporting with office. Surrender is to the public entity. The political officer is in the It also goes further in subsection 4 to indicate that a state officer or a public officer who receives a gift in terms of this regulation shall, irrespective of the monetary value of the gift, declare the gift received from a public entity which the public officer represents. Finally, all gifts are supposed to be regardless of yes, that is correct. But what I simply should have mentioned is that public officers and state officers are banned to receive any monetary gifts. So here we are dealing with gifts that are not monetary. For monetary, it is their banned, or rather they are banned from receiving any monetary gift. But yes,
and in the same manner, with respect to conflict of interest, we have a register of orders for interest. Do we have a register of business?
Yes, we have a register of benefits in each and every public agency where officers who receive gifts are supposed to declare immediately and be obligated for 8 hours. And what I would also wish to mention is that
But if I was from the commission,
now if you look at subsection 9 of the regulations, you will see that a public entity shall, at the close of every financial year, furnish the commission with a report specified and all the gifts, any gift the entity has also, or then subsection 3 was talked about report, the report under paragraph 1 shall be submitted to the commission within 30 days after the close of the financial year.
So just so that we can close on that, every financial year the commission is supposed to receive the registers of gifts from all states. That's what we are doing. Have we received the register of gifts from
Council for the Deputy President, you now proceed.
Thank you very kindly, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'll be very brief with you. You did receive the summons this morning, yes?
I received the summons yesterday afternoon.
And you have come and testify with respect to what aspect in the motion of impeachment?
There were 3 items.
Yes.
Which is the 2 companies that eventually won and the global fund protected their own treasure.
Yes.
One is called TNG, the International Trading Company.
Yes.
The other one is A to Z.
Do you know what led the cancellation of the tender?
I know.
Yes, what led the cancellation of the tender?
Direct terrorism to Shopika.
It was direct terrorism to Shopika.
You know,
is it hold of the volume 3 of the documents by the president?
Sorry?
You get hold of volume 3. Volume 3 of our book of documents. And as soon as you get it, you take the 221. Volume 3, page 21 of holiness. And as soon as you grab it, you use paragraph 100. Which page? Page 221. Paragraph 100. Volume 3. Let me ask you if I have to go to same time. Page 221. Which page? Paragraph 100.
Paragraph 100. Yes. I'm there.
Yes. Paragraph 100.
I'm there.
Yes. Can you read what the report indicates?
This report, dated 25th April 2023, wrote and noted that cancer had failed to apply the evaluation criteria consistent with all figures and that none of the figures met the minimum requirements.
So what is indicated that none of the figures met the minimum requirement? Yes. Let's go to page 221, 222. 22 at paragraph 106. And again, read it out.
Notwithstanding Texas observations, in a letter dated 4th May 2023, the active director of the Commission of the process, the CEO approved, and on 5th May 2023, the termination was completed.
What was terminated?
The process.
The process of being correct?
Yes.
Why was it terminated? Paragraph 100. So yes, paragraph 100.
Council, I will not be dealing with my evidence. I will not deal with evidence of other institutions. The Senate is an independent institution. The ESC certainly conducted its own investigation. Please ask me questions related to the investigation.
Now, after making your statement, please read the reason why the termination was activated. You
want me just to read for the sake of it that I'm not owning this evidence? I'm only owning the evidence by ESC.
I didn't ask you to own it.
Witness, the council is asking you to read a certain paragraph.
Okay.
Just read it.
Yes.
Which paragraph?
I have asked you to read paragraph 106, correct?
Yes.
About the terminations, correct?
Yes.
And I've asked you to state for the assembly the reasons why the termination is being recommended, correct?
Yes.
And I've told you that answer you find it at page 221, paragraph 100, correct?
Correct.
And that the bidding was terminated because the bids failed to meet the necessary minimum requirements, correct? the cancellation was not as a result of your alleged favorism, correct?
That is not my evidence. My evidence is
yes, I know.
It's clear favorism.
Clear favorism. Look at paragraph 236. That's what 236.
236. Yeah?
Yes. Look at paragraph 196. Yeah. Read paragraph 196.
In late 2023, he lands from the global fund.
Who is this landing from global funds?
I just took the rest.
Yeah, look at paragraph 235 so we can get to know his landing.
235.
Yeah, 235. That is the evidence by one Dr. Amico Mulwa, acting CEO Kelsa, correct?
225.
225. Up here.
Which paragraph?
Up here.
Yes, submissions by Andrew Mulwa.
Yes.
CEO.
So what did he say now at paragraph 136?
136 is April 2023. He lands from global fund. The award review report that the Lord asking the tender was to be cancelled on account of inconsistencies in the bid evaluation.
Yes.
Yes.
So why was it cancelled?
The issue is who caused the bid?
No, it's not who caused. We are looking at the report. What does it indicate at that paragraph? The part of the issue of the cancellation.
Paragraph 136.
Yes.
On account of the
it speaks to the fact that the bid or the tender was cancelled, correct?
It does, yes.
And it speaks to the reason that it was cancelled on the basis or on the reason of inconsistency, correct?
Correct.
And therefore your testimony that was a result of favorism does not fit well in the evidence contained at paragraph 106 of the band, correct?
This my
I just want you to read it yourself that paragraph. This is what is stated. That the reason for the cancellation was the inconsistency with witness, yes?
Inconsistencies, yes.
Thank you. Let's go on. Let us go to that one. Shall explain in another forum, not here. Let's go to paragraph 230. So page 230. Yes.
Which paragraph?
230.
Which paragraph?
Paragraph G.
G, yes.
Yeah. Can you read it out?
At the evaluation stage, the audit team established that only two bidders passed the preliminary evaluation and proceeded to the technical evaluation that could be as no three. The team is called international.
Which two companies passed?
As per this one, the team is called
yes.
International.
Yes.
Bidder number 7.
Yes.
Premium Movers Limited contributed to the evaluation.
Is your bidder part of those bidders?
No.
It's not. Look at paragraph, look at page 231 again, paragraph J. Page 231, paragraph J.
Paragraph J, yes.
Yes, read J.
The termination of the tender complied with section 62 of the Act and global fund guidelines.
So the termination was correct and complied with the Procurement Act. Correct. Let us look at page 246.
246.
Yes, page 246, paragraph 213. Paragraph 213.
213, yes.
Yes, what is the report indicating?
Following the cancellation of the tender, FETSA did place an order of 10.2 billion yes on water, for website, and procurement was subsequently done in line with the technical specifications provided by the Ministry of Health.
So the next one eventually procured, correct?
They were eventually procured.
And took the interventions of global funds to procure them, correct?
Correct.
And that you look at paragraph 215, yes?
Yes,
read it out.
Further, prior to the cancellation of the tender, differences arose between global fund team, the immediate form of yes, State Department of Public Health, and professional standards with regard to operations, and ongoing as the EMPM Ministry of Health. It was noted that these differences.
It was noted that these differences will have played a role in the final decision by global funds to terminate the tender processes, correct? that have anything to do with the Deputy President? According to the statement you just read, it has nothing to do with the Deputy President. Let us now finally answer your issue at page 271. 271. Yes, and read loudly paragraph 24 and 25. 271.
Paragraph
25.
The committee, that is 24, the committee observed that following the termination of the letter when there was no apparent loss of public funds.
Just read it loudly.
The committee observed that following the termination of the tender, when there was no apparent loss of public funds,
there was no apparent loss of
USD 495,589 for approximately 70 million in procurement fees.
The report from the Senate indicates there was no loss of public funds, correct?
Let me read this paragraph again so that it will be clear.
Yes, proceed.
The committee observed that following the termination of the tender, while there was no apparent loss of public funds,
just put the horse of the horse. What has the committee observed?
I'll leave to
that other part.
Okay.
What has the committee observed?
No public funds lost.
No public funds lost. In your investigations, separate investigations that conducted, did you arrive at the same conclusion? Did you or did you not?
There was no public funds lost.
There was no public funds lost. Thank you. So let us look at paragraph 25.
25 years.
Yes, give it out.
The committee observed that the cancellation of the tender appeared on the influence of the global funds private effort to exert significant control over the procurement process from the beginning to the end.
Thank you. What occasioned the cancellation?
The cancellation of the tender appeared to have been influenced by the global funds apparent effort to exert significant control over the procurement process.
Is there any evidence indicating that the Deputy President was involved in that process?
No.
Was his companies involved?
No.
Was his family involved?
No.
Any evidence that you have before this assembly? That respect?
The evidence I have.
No. Any evidence that you are in any of them were involved?
On this report?
Or my report?
On this report, no. My evidence.
Let us go to the next paragraph. This concludes that global funds teams based in Geneva, Switzerland, made multiple trips to Nairobi, Kenya, at least 3 times during the relevant period, raising concerns about autonomy and the ability of the local government. Just read it out.
That is paragraph.
Yes, the same paragraph.
Okay, the committee observed that cancellation of the tender appeared to be influenced by global funds apparent effort to exert significant control of the procurement process from the beginning to the end. This included global fund team based in Geneva, Switzerland, making multiple trips to Nairobi, Kenya, at least 3 times during the relevant period, raising concerns about autonomy and the ability of the local government agencies.
The autonomy of the organization, correct? Let us look at paragraph 222 again. Sorry, 222. 222 for witness. And when you get there, you look at paragraph 157. 222.
Paragraph
107. Would you can use it out?
107. It is further a testimony that I think was testimony.
Yeah, that is a testimony of the submission of Terry Ramahani, immediate CEO.
Okay.
Yes, you find that at 2219. Yeah, but now I'm interested in paragraph 107.
It was part of a testimony that the authority has struggled to maintain its autonomy.
The authority has struggled to maintain its autonomy, yes.
Owing to the undue influence.
Owing to undue interference from the cabinet secretary for years, yes. Who was the cabinet secretary for after the time he made the issue? Yeah, who was? This regime has only had 2 cabinet secretaries.
Let me just confirm for directors. Because she did a letter to us, so.
Council,
The next is,
Just so with us,
this is for
hold on, Mr. Ab.
Yes.
Council Jim.
Yes,
I thought when you could determine the witness, you could determine on the evidence you give.
No. Those are not the rule of recognition, Mr. Speaker, sir. I respectfully beg to
The reason why the witness has difficulties.
He doesn't have difficulties.
No, he has.
I am asking him to read. Okay, I will read.
Proceed. If that's your line of argument, proceed.
Thank you for giving me the latitude. Who was the cabinet secretary at the time the bid was being cancelled? Has this Senate found that what occasioned all these cancellations of these tenders was the loss of the autonomy of KEMSA?
I would want to confine myself to my evidence.
I know that this
I
time
would want to talk about the evidence.
Then read that paragraph. Just read for me. Paragraph from the Senate. And I want to finish up with you.
Okay. Paragraph 7. It was part of testimony that the authority had struggled to mistake its autonomy owing to the undue interference of the Cabinet Secretary for Health. For instance, she stated that on 22nd March 2023, she received a note from the CS asking her to assist a certain Mr. Ken Ogola.
She received a note from the CS asking the CEO assist one Ken Ogola, correct?
As per this statement, yes.
Have you seen any company associated with the deputy president being accused of these interferences? No. Let's go to the boundary of the signature from 8A. Any evidence from 8A that was brought that links the deputy president's company to the transmission of the letter?
Yes.
Look at your paragraph. Look at your letter dated 3rd September. Your letter dated 3rd September. And look at the recommendations.
Yes.
What are you recommending?
We are recommending for administration against defense officials and administrative officials. There is a pending issue.
It's okay. I want you to limit yourself to what I am asking in that respect.
Yes.
You are recommending administrative action to get defense officials.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct. But
So in that particular paragraph, any recommendation for the prosecution of the company issue? In that particular paragraph?
the is open.
It's okay.
As per this recommendation,
We brought the documents here. They did not get problem what you have in office.
yes.
Any recommendation that company? No. Thank you. Let us go to a letter dated 21st August. Correct? Of your bundles.
By who?
You, the ACC, but no doctor, they just need that. Don't leave from 8A. You can see the letter dated 21st August, correct?
I get the letter. 21st August, yes.
Can you see the recommendation at 27?
Yes.
What are you recommending?
We are recommending for the investigation established that the Chief Executive Officer at KEMSA Ramadan said to ensure compliance with the procurement processes and the law, contrary to section 44 of the PPDR.
That Ramadan was in breach of the law, correct?
Correct.
A person who is in breach of the law, what happens to him or her?
There are many ways of dealing with that.
The law sanctions that are correct.
Exactly.
Do you know what sanction was given to Jerry?
I wouldn't know that.
Do you know that he's now currently the ambassador to New Delhi?
That was not our expectation.
I know it.
Administrative action taken against the lady.
So, did any person, either the chief executive officer, report to you that he has received any intimidation, harassment, bullying from the office of the president?
No.
Yeah?
No.
Did you receive a complaint?
Not we as a Senate.
Did you receive a complaint?
No.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Witness, finally, where do you place your evidence in these proceedings?
These proceedings, I place my evidence on the conflict of interest bit,
Conflict of interest.
which I say, personally,
It's okay, that you say, and I understand the
I want me to finish, please.
So show me in the notice of motion, I put it to you, that in the notice of motion, there is no charge as against the deputy president for conflict of interest. But that's a surprise you that there is no such a charge? Thank you. Congratulations.
Council, the last assembly.
Now, absolutely one more question. Between your statement that you made and the Senate report, which one do you want us to rely on? Which one? There are only two options. It's either the report or the report by the Senate. I don't even need an explanation. I can stand by my report. So we disregard the report by the Senate, right? I didn't tell you that. So we disregard the report by the Senate. Is that it? I can't stand by my evidence, which I can prove in any. Has that report by the Senate indicated any investigations on the ground of favoritism, conflict of interest, and gifts?
No, I haven't got the report, so I will go. Council, are you done?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, Secretary President.
Are you done?
Yes, I am. I'm also fresh.
Mr. Speaker, I have around 4 minutes.
We have draft. How many minutes available to now, I'm afraid Council is time it up. However, that's why you can go.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to borrow 10 minutes in respect of this process.
Mr. Mahmoud.
Go to paragraph 188 and what the Senate and what the Senate
So 188 and the financial evaluation committee, the foreign leaders, the evaluation committee, I think is the one missing. The foreign leaders for our item 001 was created rectangular committee. Number 1 is Shopeka Index Private Limited. Leader number 2, Shopeka Index Private Limited, was recommended to our a price of $9 million. So there was no recommendation by the evaluation committee for an award to Shopeka Index. So I is protecting that confirm also that what you've been making a proof by the spread are the various testimonies of the witnesses who appear before the Senate. And those testimonies ran from page 202 all the way to page 265. Is that right? Yes, that's correct. So what council has done is to give you the various protestations by the witnesses who came before the Senate. What is important
is the recommendation and observations of the Senate, which is contained in pages 266 to 274. Is that correct? Correct. And allow me to just highlight 3 of the observations which were taken on by the Senate. Look at page 267. 267. And the rubric, yes, in regards to the tender specification. Page 267, item B. In regards to the tender specifications. The subject picks out the tender specifications definition, which am I, correct? Correct. Go to page 268. Yes. They also picked out the issue of extension of the tender. Yes. And in particular, this is the sentence. Paragraph 16(1). Paragraph 16(1). The sequence of events leading to the extension appear solicited and mischievous as evidenced by evidence. The Senate is saying that the extension appeared solicited and mischievous, and the event by the reasons. Yes, 6 reasons, actually. Sure, I paid attention. And then they also pick up under B, the manner in which EMSA evaluated the tender. Is that correct? So, these people of the Senate trying to do observation, give out with due respect. That is also correct. And paragraph E, the Senate discusses the process related to cancellation. It's titled cancellation of the tender. That's correct. And they say that though there was no loss of funds, Kensington lost 70 billion shillings. Yes. In Procurement. Paragraph 224. Yes. So in order to expect, this is the one practice in the report. Yes. That is correct. And then they feel it's not for you to be sorry. You've also been told that conflict of interest is not an issue which has been raised by the approval of the motion. With the best of your knowledge, that's the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Act. Sorry, Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act are close for the conflict of interest. And it does, the Leadership and Integrity Act also does. I will identify to the Senate during my submissions the relevant section of the same. And we wish to close.
Thank you. We will now move to allow the other senators to ask questions or seek clarification. Starting with the Senator from Nairobi. Senator,
Mr. Speaker, I have 2 quick clarification questions. One from the witness, and the other one from the counsel who was examining the witness. Mr. Abu, you indicated to this Senate that eventually that only 17 companies that we paid for this tender, all of them will get their reports and documents back. However, the witness that appeared before us, Congress and Rural, indicated that on November 2023, he received a phone call from the Deputy President to be able to come and collect the people from Sharia, specifically from ESCC. I want to know, when did the other 16 companies get their reports from ESCC? Did they get it at the same date that the final witness indicated that only for 5 hours EACC, or do we get them from EACC at a private age? Then lastly, Mr. Speaker, the Council for the Deputy President has taken the line on the Senate report. And if you look at page 218 all the way to page 230, it is submissions to Senate by different individuals. Council, the submissions itemized by individuals who appear before Senate in the best understanding amount to Senate's finding and resolutions in the best understanding. And what you know of page 275 of Senate recommendations and not findings, because you didn't begin to these hours, but those are Senate findings. Are they findings or are they submissions of individuals to the Senate of Kenya? Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mulata.
Asante sana Bwana Spika. Swali langu kwa mshahidi, umeelezea bunge la Senate ya kwamba wafanyikazi wa serikali hawakubaliwi kuchukua pesa kama zawadi, lakini wafanyikazi wa serikali wanakubaliwa kuchukua zawadi aina nyingine. Na tena ukasema katika EACC kuna orodha ambayo mnaorodhesha kila kitu ambacho kinachukuliwa na mfanyakazi yoyote wa serikali. Tunajua kwamba makamu wa rais amekuwa mbele ya Kenya nzima akasema amepata ng'ombe kutoka kwa marafiki zake wa bonde la ufa kama zawadi. Nataka kuuliza na uelezee hii bunge yetu ya Senate. Je, uko na orodha ya yote ya hizo ng'ombe za maziwa ambazo zilipatikana ambazo anasema alizionyesha? Hiyo ndio swali langu kwa. Asante.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have 2 questions. I would like to ask the Council of Procurement and the Deputy President. In the House, why was it the Deputy President calling the CEO of KEMSA asking for a list of the people and not the CEO of Christian Company? Yes, it's not that way. But I'd like to say that. Mr. Speaker, so I equally want to ask the Council of the Deputy President would like me conclude to this house that from how the course of the Deputy President to the CEO of KEMSA pertaining a people that was in process of absorption, not a conflict of interest. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, I would also like to ask the Council if the Deputy President knows that it's not a regional leader, but a national leader. Thank you.